Om Shanti, Sister Jayanti.
Om Shanti.
And welcome to everyone once again. We have missed you, Jayanti Ben. And I want to say that Baba always gave Sister Jayanti the title of Flying Yogi, Flying Angel. And Sister Jayanti was a major participant and contributor in the COP26 conference. And it's not a small event, it's a very international event. You know that many prime ministers were there, presidents were there. And so, Sister Jayanti, I feel like you've come back from this kind of victory, from not a battle, but I feel like you've done great service and come back from that. So Sister Jayanti will revise the Murli a little bit, share news about COP, and then we can ask her a few questions. Welcome back, Sister Jayanti.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back with all of you again. Whenever there's a festival, it's Christmas, it's Diwali, any major event like that, we always say lots of love, lots of blessings, lots of good wishes, all our pure feelings are with you. It's a very beautiful way to express our thoughts of love to those who we do love and all our friends and connections. But this time, Baba actually took up what it means to have pure feelings and good wishes for everyone. And so just a recap on the Murli first, and then a few thoughts of reflection further in terms of what Baba said. And so Baba first of all pointed out that God is the benefactor for all, but all of you children also are the master bestowers, the benefactors, because you have pure feelings and good wishes for everyone in the world. And in Bhakti also, you would have good wishes and pure feelings, but of course you didn't know how to take power from God, you weren't connected with God, and so you weren't actually able to do that for any extent of time. It was only for a very limited period of time that people were able to experience the benefit of that. And it's only now, when you actually understand what it means to have pure feelings and nothing but good wishes, that you can actually give souls benefit for the whole of the cycle. For yes, half the cycle, but that benefit is carried even further along. And so the power of your good wishes are such that really you change not only the humans of the world and give all of them the unlimited experience of taking whatever they need from God, but also you actually transform nature and the elements itself. And so just imagine how powerful your good wishes are, and you don't always realize how powerful they are. Baba also commented that these two things absolutely go together. You can have pure feelings for all, but you must also have the foundation for that, and that is the pure desire to be able to serve all with this, because the two things are absolutely connected. If you're just simply repeating the things that Baba has told you, if you're sharing things just in terms of duty and responsibility, and I suppose I have to, then that doesn't touch souls, it doesn't transform souls. But when you have really that pure desire that they should claim their inheritance from the Father and take everything that is their right to take from Baba, and you have those pure feelings for them, then the combination of that pure desire, your good wishes for them, and also your pure feelings for them, the combination of that is such that truly they're able to come close to the Father. And your good wishes are then able to serve a purpose, and they work. And how with science now, science is able to reach across the oceans, and vision and sound can go anywhere, but surely the power of silence even greater. Why? Because the speed of thought is faster than anything else in the universe. And so your pure feelings can reach souls and help them. And they'll feel that it's as if there's some help that's reaching me from somewhere. And they won't know that it's you, and that's fine. But they'll know that it's coming from up above. And so they'll be drawn closer to that being up above. And so recognize the value of the power of your good wishes and pure feelings. But Baba also explained that this is possible only when you make space in your mind and your intellect. And what we are doing at the present time, Baba said, is we're occupying ourselves too much. Too many thoughts are going on. We're caught up with all sorts of little situations and little incidents. And so the line becomes busy. It's engaged and nothing more can happen. And so make space. Clear out all those things. Let yourself go to a higher state. In that state of soul consciousness and remembrance of God, Baba said, Ekant Priya, the one who loves solitude, and ekagrta, concentration, focus. And so these two things, and it doesn't mean leaving my duties and running away, going somewhere. I can do that only for a little time anyway. But where I am, can I develop the power to be able to turn inwards and be in remembrance of one, go into the depths of one, and really learn to concentrate. So when I love inner solitude, here's a simple method. Can I extend that 3-minute period of traffic control and make it 4 minutes and 5 minutes, maybe even 6 minutes, so that I'm again able to recharge myself with that inner power, but also I'm able to concentrate, I'm able to focus, and I'm able to develop the power of silence within myself, which is how then pure feelings and good wishes can reach others. And then Baba said how on the surface of the ocean, there's noise, there's the waves and the sound of the waves, and maybe even upheaval in the waves. But if you go into the depths of the ocean, there's stillness there. And so go into the depths of the ocean of knowledge and experience the stillness that comes from going deep down. And all the upheaval will be going on around you outside, but you're developing your power of silence, and you're able to focus your mind and intellect in whatever stage it is you have decided to experience. And so develop the power of silence and the power of pure feelings and good wishes for all. So just a further little recap on the other bits of the Murli. What stood out for me, Baba talking to the teachers, was, are you yourself experimenting and experiencing all of these things? Then you can help others too. But also, a capable teacher means there should be results visible, but also a capable teacher means thoughts and words and actions are all being done simultaneously. So you're serving through the mind, you're serving through your words, and you're serving through your actions. And when everything is aligned in that way of service, you're busy all the time, but also you're seeing very good results through all of that. And then the Kumaris, Baba had his vision very clearly focused on the Kumaris. But within that, what struck me was, how can you become worthy? And the answer was very simple. Just belong to one. That's it. To become worthy, just belong to one. Total dedication, total connection, belonging to one. And yes, Baba encouraged the Kumaris to think about serving the world, rather than serving for their own comforts or serving for a limited family, but think about the world that's waiting to be served. And then the Kumars, again, very interesting. Baba speaking about how Kumars always are looking for a companion or company. But you have the company of God, make God your companion. You have the company of the family, and that can support you. But Baba also recognized that it's more challenging for Kumars than it is for Kumaris. Kumaris very quickly come into the field of service, and so they're very much kept safe within that arena. But Kumars out there in the world, and Baba appreciating the struggle that they had, but also giving them a lot of love and strength and power. And Baba's story about Pandapavan, and the story behind this, there was a Pandapavan created, I believe it was in the early 60s in Benares, Varanasi, and it didn't actually work out because of the sanskars. And so it got disbanded. And when Daddy came to London, then at that time, 1974, souls began to emerge. By 75, there was quite a solid group of souls. And many of them were brothers, actually. Sisters began to come later. At first, we had a very powerful Pandav army. And Daddy said to them, find a place which is calling distance, so that if ever there's a need, if a sister calls you from Baba's house, not telephone, but she will come into the street and say, come, you'll be able to see it and hear it, and you'll be able to come running across to help whatever the need is. So very interesting comment from Baba about being at calling distance. And the first Pandav Bhavan outside Bharat was established there, and it did huge service. And from there, it led to Shanti Bhavan, which is where 8, 9 brothers lived together for many, many years, and that still continues. But also many, many brothers who are instruments across the world have had sustenance there. So Baba's blessings that these Kumars have been able to live together and work together in a lovely way. And then Baba talking about the double foreigners and the letters we write. Well, great to write letters of honesty and everything of your heart. But Baba encouraging us to write a letter of 2 words, 2 letters actually, not even words, just O and K. O for Shiv Baba, K the kingdom. And so get yourself right. Don't just say to Baba, I'm okay, but put yourself right and then write to Baba, I am okay. All is well. Baba doesn't want to hear long stories of the Ramayana. The Bhagavad has the stories of God's love and activity. And then the Ramayana has all the stories of human failings and weaknesses and the struggles and the battles and promises being broken and all sorts of things. So don't get into those stories. Just keep yourself out of it. They're too little. Don't get busy with those things. So Baba giving love to all. But just a few reflections on this idea of nothing but pure feelings and good wishes, and being able to keep the mind and intellect free. Do I have good feelings for myself? Or am I complaining and moaning about myself? I shouldn't have done this. I should have done this. Why didn't I think about it? Is this the chatter that's going on in my mind? Well, if that's what's going on in my mind, that's what's going to happen in my relationships also, inside out. And so to cultivate the feeling of valuing the self, of respect for the self, so that then I can value others and value nature also. And so very, very important lesson from Baba. Just have nothing but pure feelings and begin with yourself. Very easy to have pure feelings for somebody across the other side of the planet because I don't interact with them. Yes, I know I have to serve the world, and so I'm sending out those good vibes. And that's easy. but the one who lives next door to me, my neighbor, maybe his interests and my interests don't quite match. They don't tally. And he wants a bit of my space. And I think, well, why should he have that space? So this is where neighbors actually are probably the ones who quarrel and conflict the most, not just in terms of individuals and people, in terms of countries. Think about all the border clashes that happen across the world in some form or another, neighboring countries, and my interests and your interest just aren't coming to a compromise or an agreement or consensus. So that's what's going on. But my own family, sometimes family traumas are the hardest things to sort out, and they last for decades, not even just years. And so to be able to erase all the things that I need to erase from my mind, my judgmental attitude, my critical attitude, and be able to forgive. Can I let go and forgive whatever it is I'm still holding in my heart? Because if it's there, I cannot use the power of good wishes and the power of silence. So first, I have to clean out my feelings for everyone. I can't say I've forgiven 3 people, but there's one person I haven't yet forgiven, and it's okay. 1 drop of poison in water, would you drink it? It's only 1 drop. There's a whole glass full of water, but that 1 drop poisons it all. And so one relationship that I haven't forgiven, and I'm holding that bitterness and sorrow and that attitude of lack of forgiveness in my heart, and it's creating turmoil inside. It's creating upheaval and bitterness and pain. So to have nothing but pure feelings, can I remove all aspects of these negative traits and be able to have a big heart and forgive and let go? And secondly, so many thoughts that come of comparison and competition and jealousy and all of these things. And that's because I don't value myself. I'm not introverted. I don't see myself as having the highest potential. And Baba's just helping me release that potential and make it emerge. And so let me be able to do that. Come back to the realization of who I am and that innermost dignity through soul consciousness. And then, yes, I'll be free from all that negativity, and I'll have nothing but pure feelings and good wishes for everyone, everyone. And the third thing, can I put a full stop? Can I realize that whatever is happening is benevolent? There is benefit in every step that I take because I'm following Srimad. If I'm not following Srimad, then that's not true. But if I am following Srimad, then there's benefit. And so drama is benevolent, beneficial. Baba, of course, is the benefactor and is the benevolent one. But drama is also benevolent. Drama, the mother. The mother is always beneficial, benevolent. And so learn to put a full stop without letting waste thoughts take over my headspace and throw out anything else. So let me put a full stop. Then I can have pure feelings all the time. And I can genuinely have good wishes for everyone, not just my family or my friends, but for each and everyone. And that is what is going to take the world onto the next phase, the transition, and then Satyug can come. When we learn to have nothing but good wishes and pure feelings for all, that's when the drama will click and there'll be a new scene beginning, the scene of the golden age. So those are a few reflections on yesterday's Murli. And at an event invitation, let me share with you a little of COP and just a brief note about the history. When Brahmakumaris were given general consultative status for the UN from thousands of NGOs who have a relationship with the UN, with the DPI, the Department of Public Information, we were pulled into another category, which is just hundreds, the consultative status category. But within that, we were given general consultative status, which is the highest level, which says that the Brahmakumaris have an expertise that the UN can call upon for any of the projects or any of the departments that do the work of creating a better world for all. Because Baba's work, of course, touches women, it touches youth, it touches health, it touches children, it touches the environment. So anything to do for a better world is Baba's task, but it's also coinciding with the UN's task. And so general consultative status was granted by governments. Governments explored our activity at the UN for the past 10 years or however long. And every government then said, India said yes when it came up for approval. A short history was mentioned, and then India government said yes, and Costa Rica said yes, America said yes. I think Germany was also on the panel at that time. They said yes. So yes, the person, the chairperson, hit the gavel and he said, Brahmakumaris have been granted this status. And it was quite significant and still is, because I could be wrong, because it was a long time ago that we were given that status at the end of the 90s. But certainly at that time, we were the first and the only spiritual organization from the East to be given this status. Why I put it in that sort of detail is that according to that status, it meant that we could then apply to be observers at the United Nations climate change conferences, UNFCCC, the UN Framework for Climate Change, and so on. We were the only spiritual organization this time at COP from the East. Sorry, I have to add that, from the East. There are lots of Christian organizations, and of course, environmental organizations and whatever, but we were the only spiritual organization from the East to be there. That gives you an idea of how different Baba's work is to whatever else is going on around gurus and organizations that teach meditation and so on and so forth. So since 2009, we've been sharing this idea of consciousness and climate. And when we first started sharing this in Denmark, in Copenhagen, 2009, we had an exhibition and we had stalls, a stall in which all these pictures were displayed. And people were quite shocked. They were surprised. How can you link consciousness and climate? And so we would tell them the trajectory of smriti, vritti, drishti, kriti, srishti, which means, most of you know, but for those who don't, my awareness, my attitude, my vision, my behavior, my actions, and so the world. And so when we say, when I change, the world changes, it's because of this trajectory. And so how long did that take? 30 seconds? It takes 37 seconds to explain from consciousness to climate. Why? Because when my consciousness is spiritual, I don't harm nature. I don't exploit nature. I don't aggress nature. I'm not violent against nature or animals. Nature I'm putting together as everything, you know, animals, birds, bees, all living creatures and the elements. And also how when there's a higher consciousness, then we experience inner happiness. And so we are not interested in acquisition of property and possessions and accumulation and a new wardrobe every year and all the things that people out there are still into, which means that our needs are greatly reduced. Our life becomes much more simple. And so our carbon footprint is much reduced. And so these are the two main factors that we explain to people: this trajectory of inside and what happens out there, but also inside, this inner state of contentment and joy because of our spiritual awareness and our lifestyle. And so this has been the theme, lots of other details. And then, of course, we've always taken up the subject of renewable energies in a big way. And the largest single user of new renewable energies in Bharat is Brahmakumaris. We have all these solar systems in many retreat places. Madhuban, India 1 was the first. And so we have very good credentials for this. But I think what we're trying to do now is also collect the information of other retreat centers from across the world where they have been interested in renewable energies, and to put together a case study about how we went doing all this in the world out there. So we've been beating the drums about this for quite a while. And at one point, early days, environmentalists weren't really interested in what we were doing because they'd say spiritual people are up there, they're not interested in what's happening down here, so we're not going to involve them. And then something shifted around 2012, and it was at the Rio Plus 10 summit, or Rio Plus 20 summit, 92 Rio, and then 2012. And environmentalists began to say, but if we want to reach the grassroots, it has to be through the faith-based organizations. They don't use the word religion, which is fine, it's good, it suits us well, faith-based organizations. And within that, they said, of course, there's a lot of information, but 80% of the world's population belong to one religion or another, one spiritual tradition or another. Only 20% of people are actually absolutely without any connection with faith. So to reach 80% of the human world, it was faith-based organizations that had all those networks on the grassroots level. And so they started involving us. 2014, 2015, you could see that there was such a major shift, and nature-based organizations were inviting us onto their panels. Interfaith got a big boost because Christiana Figueres, who would be meeting us regularly from time to time, she asked her chief of staff when she was the executive secretary there, she asked her chief of staff to meet with her separately after our meeting with her, but to meet with him so that then he could get an understanding of what faith-based organizations were doing. And so then in 2014, there was very big ceremonies in New York, and Christiana was, of course, heading up the UN at that, the UNFCCC at that time. And so she was really encouraging the involvement of faith-based organizations. And at that point, Valerian was asked to be the liaison. And so she and a man who's now the Secretary General of the World Council of Churches, the two of them organize interfaith activities. When we want to do a full platform, they organize it, or when we want to meet the director or the deputy director, again, they organize those meetings for us as a group. So that's very good. And what happened this year was the World Wildlife Fund, which is very, very significant in the work that it does and the contacts that it has, the outreach that it has. Royalty are their patrons. They have huge budgets. They have offices around the world. And every country that has a WWF organization does huge work for the environment. So now, this year, for the first time, they appointed somebody who happened to be from a Hindu background and has known the Brahma Kumaris for decades and has always worked with us on panels. He's been to Madhuban, but they appointed him as their liaison person for beliefs and ethics and values. And so this person invited Brahma Kumaris to be on their panel when they had a gathering of faith-based organizations. And on that panel also was Karina Gore. And if you recognize the name, she's a daughter of Al Gore, but she actually was a person who inspired her father, not the other way around, because she started an organization called the Center for Earth Ethics yonks ago. And so that was the inspiration that led to Al Gore making that film, The Inconvenient Truth. And then a second film, a documentary again, following that first one. And so he was there in the audience. Of course, he'd come to hear his daughter, but he was also hearing all of us. And this woman, Karina Gore, very simple, very natural, very easy, and very committed and sincere. And so her input was great, but we had it on the WWF stand, which was huge, and a lot of people there. But also they were broadcasting it live. And so I know that others from the Brahmin family who were there were watching live as it was being broadcasted. And then again, WWF had a media point, and there again it was BKs who were there, and they'd invited us to be part of quite a small group that was being interviewed, just 3 of us being interviewed by one of the BBC staff. And this little clip, maybe 10-15 minutes, was also put out to all the news media channels. Then I don't know who picked it up. Another media thing that was a first was the chief rabbi of the UK actually stated in one of his panels that the governments ignore the faith-based leaders, and the faith-based leaders are scrambling around trying to find a platform to voice their opinions. And so we got a phone call from a BBC researcher, and she tracked me, and then she said, this is what the chief rabbi has said. Do you agree with this? And I said, well, no, not quite, because yes, the UN is a platform for governments actually, but we had very, very good coverage in all the different panels. In fact, the figure was that we had over 30 panels that we participated in. It was more than 30 by the end of the event. We lost track finally. But can you imagine a few of us there with 30 different panels that we were part of? And it was to do with interfaith, it was to do with renewable energies, it was to do with youth, it was to do with leadership qualities, many different things. So we covered quite a range. And we had 2 receptions. Let me finish the rabbi story. So I said to this lady that we have been given very good platforms. And then she said, would you like to be in an interview with one other person on the Sunday program? And in Britain, the Sunday program, it's a religious news program on Sunday mornings, and it's the most listened to program probably in the UK in terms of religion, the God slot, they call it. And it was a lovely interview because they recorded us for 15 minutes on the Saturday. Getting to the interview was quite a chore because it happened to be the day when there was wind and rain, a lot of rain in Glasgow, but wind and rain hitting us as we were walking. It was coming to us. So it was a battle to get there, but that was fine. And we got there and the whole building is huge. It's deserted. Every office has all this hi-fi equipment. You know, all this was just there. And a handful of people in the building because of COVID. They still haven't started operating properly. And the Bishop of Panama, who I'd met earlier anyway, he was in one studio and I couldn't see him because of all the equipment that was in the way. And I was in another studio and the interviewer was sitting in Manchester. And so it gave such an eerie feeling at first to walk into this place and no human beings, just machines, machines, machines everywhere. Maybe it's a sign of the times to come further. So that was very good. Golo got interviewed by a television crew from Belgium, I think, or maybe it was Germany. But anyways, a very good interview on what you're doing in COP and how you're going to work out. Another very interesting thing was that Carolyn from Berlin, she for the past 4 years has been working with the Institute of Advanced Sustainable Studies. And this is a scientific organization set up 11 years ago where they believe that there can be different methods of acquiring knowledge, such as science, but also intuition and dialogue and meditation. And the director of the scientific director of the whole thing, he's met us many, many times now, and he kept inviting us to do discussion groups on their stand. And so we had lots of discussion groups on their stand, I think about 9. And again, another very interesting panel was the SDG panel. And this was the Sustainable Development Goals. And they were looking at gender equality. And they wanted to find out about feminine leadership and indigenous leadership. And the two actually are very, very aligned, because to think about a cooperative approach, a collaborative approach, a consensus approach, that's very much what we've seen Nadi Prakashmani do when she became the first leader after Baba. She didn't do it alone. Of course, she had Baba, but she also brought the Dadis together. After that, she created a team in Madhuban. After that, she created teams of teachers, lots and lots of collaboration in that sense. And so I was able to give them practical examples from the lives of the Dadis. So very, very good session. The 2 most successful things that we organized were 2 receptions in a Unitarian church, just a few minutes walk away from the main area where the governments were meeting, the blue zone. The green zone was another area, which was the UK government. And in that, BKs had the opening slot, the UK government video, welcome video, in which it was the president of COP26, Alok Sharma, the Prime Minister of Britain, Boris Johnson, and the opening slot is a message from BKs. So somebody up there made that happen. It couldn't have happened otherwise. I haven't told you about how good the youth were. They did a brilliant job. Lots of participation in other interfaith panels. Spirit of Humanity was well represented. They were being invited. Valerian, interfaith things. Sonia, the overall organizer, and Gola with renewable energies. Just amazing things were happening. And we only knew about 2 or 3. That was a bit of a fun shot because it's the globe dangling from the ceiling. But of course they said, if you do this, then we'll capture it on the photo. So, and yeah, you can see different panels going on. This is with the Deputy Director of UNFCCC. He couldn't come, so Zoom now always gets pulled in, and the interfaith delegation, Franciscan monk and others, and Gola being interviewed. So little, I think this was our reception, that one. And here the BK, UK and international group. The brothers were helping and supporting, and Shantanu, our youth representative in front. There were other, Philippa came especially for a couple of days because there'll be a documentary prepared. Rajesh Pai was incredible, running around with his camera and equipment. So really, one of the joys of COP is the time that we spend together in this way. Here you're not seeing Karina, but she's there on the other side. So that was the Bishop of Panama. And this is Brent, our dear local council, Brent. And they invited us to come and have a photo shoot. And the photographer was asking me to pose, turn your chin here, turn your face here, to sit like this. So he had in mind whatever it is, and this is how it came out. And so this is an exhibition that Brent Civic Center, which is a beautiful, very elegant place, had, and the SDG panel. The second woman with the pink cardigan, she's an indigenous youth leader from India, from Orissa. So quite an incredible person. And the one sitting on the other side is Azza, a PhD student from Sudan. And the one in the middle with the microphone, that's her professor. And they're both at the East Anglia University. And Maureen and Carolyn went to meet them again, and they had a gathering for them, which was a very good workshop. And because there's so much noise happening, we couldn't have heard each other. And so everybody had headphones, even people in the audience all were given headphones. And the lady on the other side, she met us since 2014, and she keeps meeting us every time. She was at that time a PhD student, and now, of course, qualified, and she's working with WWF also. So it was, I mean, every year Baba's message is more and more appreciated at the COPs because they want spirituality. One last thing, and then I'll stop. The activists were out there in full force, rain, cold, didn't matter, morning, afternoon, evening. They were out there with their message of, reduction in this, do that, do the other, but with a smiling face. And the police were always charming with them, and all of us also. So an amazing atmosphere. And in one march that 3 BKs participated in, and I just happened to see it, we had to go to the station for our train, and then we saw this carnival. It felt and looked and sounded like a carnival, music and dance, and but of course, all asking for climate justice and many, many things. So let's see. In terms of the world, I don't think very much has been achieved. Pardon me if I say that. It sounds significant, but when will governments listen? So the world is going that way. The Baba's flag is going gradually this way. And so spirituality, meditation is more and more being acknowledged and recognized.
Bravo, Sister Jayanti, and bravo to the whole team.
Yeah. And Baba pushing buttons to make it all happen, really.
Amazing at these places, yeah, how just connections, dynamic, yeah. So we move now from the glamour of COP back to our spiritual studies. And so one of the questions I had, Sister Jayanti, was if we go back to Ekant, It means ek ke ant. And so we were discussing here, what does it mean to go to the end of one? Ek ke ant. That's literally the translation. So please explain. Yeah.
It means to really, really be able to connect with Baba and to be able to know Baba. You know how Sakar Baba always says, only a handful of you know me as I truly am. So a question, what are my expectations of God? And do I realize that Baba has given me everything? I don't need to ask him for anything. Everything is available for me. And so our unrealistic or our bhakti expectations of God mean that I haven't truly understood who God really is. And when I'm dependent on a human being for something, again, how well do I know God? Have I been able to go into the depths of God and make God belong to me so that I'm able to totally surrender to God also? No hesitation, no restrictions, no bondages for the mind, no distractions, really, truly, to be able to know who God is and how to come closer and closer to him so that then I can be Bab Saman, like the Father.
And then Sister Jayanti, regarding forgiving, because you also mentioned that again at the end of that session. But, you know, one of the reasons why we can't forgive is because we've taken sorrow. It's like the sorrow has gone so deep in the soul. So I would think the first premise is to not take the sorrow. So I know it's easier said than done, but what is the yukti to not take the sorrow that then goes in, and then I, you know, create a conflict and unforgive?
There's two things, I think. One is the sorrow that has stayed in me for a long time from childhood, maybe. I'm carrying that sorrow still. Open up people's hearts and they'll share with you the trauma that they experienced in childhood. And that is still there. It hasn't been dealt with so often. And so to be able to take so much love from Baba, that hurt is healed, and I'm able to put it into context and say, okay, karma, drama, whatever it was, it happened, so be it, full stop. I'm not going to let my mind wander there again. And even if in a conscious way, my mind isn't wandering there, there's still a hurt that I carry. And so to take God's love and to be able to remove that hurt and finish it and settle it, because otherwise, if I'm being rude to you today, probably it's because I'm carrying a lot of sorrow from the trauma of the past. And at this moment, I'm not thinking that, oh, because I've been traumatized, this is why I'm speaking the way that I am. Very fascinating, this whole subject of trauma and how we've tried to deal with it, or we've ignored it and think we're okay, and our behavior is showing, but it's not quite okay. So to deal with that first. And then secondly, the trauma or the sorrow that I've taken since coming to Baba. And probably those are little things. It's not big things like the childhood trauma, in no way comparison, but yet still I've accumulated. This one said this to me at this time, this one said this to me at this time, and so this is why I'm upset or I'm not very happy. And so again, with the power of Gyan, and to know that there's something within me that triggered that. Because that same person is chummy and charming and very happy with another person. But why is it that I took sorrow? So to understand that my sensitivity needs to be removed. I need to take from God power, the power of tolerance, the power of being able to merge things instead of carry things with me. So as I develop this power of tolerance, I can deal with that also. And today, I need to have such an elevated state of happiness that little things happen and I can laugh it off. And we know this experience. When things are going well internally, something happens and you're not bothered by it. You'll say, it's okay, never mind. And you'll move on. And where I'm not so strong spiritually, I don't have that inner joy, then a little thing goes wrong and it becomes a big deal, a huge subject. And so different levels, different ways. But first with God's love, the trauma of childhood. Second, the accumulation of hurt. So expanding my awareness so that my tolerance capacity grows. And then thirdly, really being able to stay so above, so happy and joyful that you're not bothered by all these little things that are going on.
Does that also include the trauma from past lives? Are you saying before Gyan is not just this birth, it's also from past lives, right? That's subconscious.
That I would say is more the habit of being sad or habit of being unhappy. Because I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think that the trauma of one birth carries on through to the next birth. We don't have enough research in the subject to verify it, but I think probably the trauma of death, when a soul leaves its home that it's had for 80 years, 30 years, 40 years, however long, when a soul leaves that home, that in itself is such a traumatic experience that it erases the memory generally of the past birth. Now it's in a new home, a new baby, a little fetus, and it has space to reflect, space to think. So the trauma of just that movement, when you move house, how much time does it take you to settle and adjust? And at least you're still yourself. And here in this case, death has come such a dramatic, traumatic experience that everything you knew is left behind. People, possessions, property, your home, your body, everything has been left. And so that makes you forget. And I think that any other trauma would also be forgotten by then. And so in the next birth, though, what does carry on is that lingering sense of the habit of sorrow, the sanskar of keeping sorrow. So you've seen it happen. Today in this birth, there's nothing that's specifically wrong, but the person still isn't actually able to be happy. And so they need Gyan to be able to come out of that sanskar of sorrow.
Maybe I know it's late to start this discussion, but Jinwen, going by what you're saying, then you're saying that then the slate becomes clean. So where's the role of sanskars then?
The sanskar that I'm carrying is that of sorrow. And we were talking about trauma. And so where the soul has been traumatized, that certainly stays until you deal with it in that birth with Baba's love. And as I say, I don't know if trauma is carried from one birth to another, but I do know that the sorrow that has come from the trauma, that sorrow is a sanskar that is carried.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't have enough information on the external level to say that the trauma is also carried. I don't know.
Sure, yeah, but that's palatable. And yeah, just one question from the chat, maybe a nice question to end with. a powerful mind. Baba tells us to have a powerful mind. What kind of mind is a powerful mind?
A mind that is clean, a mind that's elevated, a mind that's able to have the spiritual perspective. In Baba's terminology, that's what powerful mind means. So I'm looking at things not from here, I'm looking at things from this perspective, from the spiritual perspective. That is power, to look at things with your third eye and not just your two physical eyes.
So thank you so much. And we will stop here. And Sister Jayanti, thank you. I know it's the middle of your afternoon in London. Thanks for sacrificing other things. Thank you, everyone. So this will be the timing now going forward for the next few weeks until there is change in Sister Jayanti's timetable.
Okay, lovely to meet you all again, and stay well and keep flying.